Hey, Thomas here with another video for the Addison Sound channel. So I kind of promised you, or at least alluded to a workshop style video um, for this Children of Eden process. And I'm going to do it right here. So in the previous video, I showed you how I revamped the whole DCA setup and layout for this generations number here. And now, or I guess some of the settings got changed here. Let me fix this real quick. Make sure that this audio patch 3 has no device so that I don't have two audio files playing at the same time. I'm going to be working with the guide track here in this video. And so just so you recall, I don't have a screenshot or screen share for the other app here right now, but I'm just going to let you know the DCA group layout is DCA group number 1 is for music. DCA group number 2 is for the principals who are just part of the ensemble in this case. And then DCA groups 2, 3, and 4 are for the soloists that are featured in this song. And 3, 4, and 5, I should have said. So 3, 4, and 5 are the soloists. And then 6 and 7 are the ensemble singers, which are all the rest. So so the structure, I'm basically sitting here with the music score, going through it, and I have the guide track, obviously, that we'll be able to hear what's going on. And my goal here is to set up kind of a pre-mix, and the way I do this is I send volume settings for the DCA volume signals, MIDI signals that that control the volumes of the DCA channels, and I'm kind of presetting the mix for that. And I'm going to be doing this kind of in a custom way in this song, just because I have set some presets for that I recall in other situations, but because this song is now kind of customized because of the special DCA group layout, I'm just going to set this up as all individual events. All right, now you can see here coming out of the previous cue, which is essentially the end of Act 1, quote unquote, we have all microphones muted. And that's how it starts. So there's no unmute going on here, but rather it just goes directly. There's actually a few measures of that's called just instrumental music that's called tribal dance feel. And then at this point right here is where the generations cue is called up, and that's the cue that we just reconfigured. So we have, almost all channels unmuted and distributed into the custom DCA layout, and those microphones are opened at 9 seconds in. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create some subgroups. The command for that is command 0, that creates a new group. And I've set this up so that my new groups that I'm creating in the mode here are always created as timeline start all children simultaneously. This is important because otherwise, if you don't have this mode selected, not all of the events that are grouped inside that group will be triggered at the same time. So the way I'm using these groups here as subgroups, you see here, this is a bigger group that's also a group, right? You can see the green border around this. This is kind of like the first hierarchy of groups. And then you can see here are smaller groups that are slightly indented, and those are subgroups. And you can nest them as deeply as you want, as you see fit. So there's no end to how many subgroups you can create. Anyway, so I'm going to set this subgroup now here to 9 seconds, because there might be other things that will happen right there where the microphones are unmuted. Then I'm going to move this event into the group, And now, see what happens here is now the 9 seconds that are set to this particular MIDI event are now relative to the beginning, to the pre-wait time of the group. So if I keep it like this would now fire this MIDI event 18 seconds into the song. See, the song starts at 0 at the beginning of this bigger group here. And now this subgroup starts at 9 seconds in. And if I keep this generations event as another pre-wait time, then these two pre-wait times would add up. So I'm going to take this pre-wait time out. And now I have this like this. Okay, so soloists start singing. All right. Now, I'm also going to create a group just at the beginning, and that's where I'm going to preset all of my DCA volumes. So I'm just going to create another group right here, and I'm going to call that start of song. And this group is going to start at 0, so that's going to be fired right at the beginning of the song. And I'm going to move this DCA group in here. And now let me show you how the DCA group event works. It's a control change type of command. And channel 1, this channel 1 is firing volume events. Okay, so in the way that the MIDI events are structured in the X32 console, channels don't have anything to do with channels on the board, but rather channels, MIDI channels, are used to identify what type of event you mean when you send a control change. So this channel number 1 means volume event. So that controls the volume of wherever you're directing this event towards. Now the control number, that essentially is, in this case, you could almost call it the fader number, because we're dealing with volume. So this is kind of like the fader number. So if you send a volume event, channel 1 volume event, to control number 0, that is the first channel on the board. So always these control numbers always work as like index numbers. They start with 0. So fader number 1, which is actually channel 1 on the board, not to be confused with channel 1 that identifies the volume event, but this here is the actual microphone input channel. Channel 1 on the board would be 0. And so once you number all the faders through, you come up to number 72 being the first DCA group fader. Okay, so that's good to keep that in mind. And then the consecutive DCA group faders are just numbering up from there. So DCA group 2 is 73, DCA group 3 is 74, and so forth, right? So that's the structure of that. So this is directing, this determines which channel on the board or which fader on the board you're directing this volume event towards, right? And then this control value, that sets the actual volume, in this case, the actual value for the volume. And because these are MIDI events, there are values available between 0, which means completely turned down, and 127. 127 is always the highest number in MIDI events. Any type of MIDI events uses values between 0 and 127. And so basically 127 is push the fader all the way up, which is like labeled on the board would be 10 or plus 10 dB, if that makes any sense. So I have kind of my music volume for singing. I have kind of dialed that in as 80. So this is kind of my standard volume that I'm putting up as music volume for singing. All right. And now here's another cool thing. Let me just explain this as I'm here in this place. in the Qlab, the way that the control change events are configured, you have a possibility here to program a change, not just a single event that just simply sends this event and that's it, but you can program a change over a specified duration so that it moves from an initial value that you would set here to a target value that you can set here. And then you can set fade over the duration. You can set the duration right here. So this is really cool because it allows you to create a fade up or fade down in the music track as you're moving, for example, from having music that goes under dialogue to music being more featured so that people can sing on top of it. So a volume change like this would be much more organic if you could, structure it as a slow fade or, specifically designed fade. And then not only that, you can configure the duration here, set a duration here, let's say 2 seconds. You can then even shape the curve of how this volume change is happening over the time of these 2 seconds that you've set here, right? So this is really, really cool. There are really cool things that you can do with this, and you can be very creative, and it's very powerful. It's a very powerful way to set up your automation this way. I really like that. But right now we're just going to use, let me undo all this stuff here. Yes, okay, so this is where we had it. Right now, I just want to set static values for all DCA groups in a way where I'll probably need them for the purpose of this particular song. All right, so I'm just going to make some duplicates here of this event. I'm just going to make one, okay? And I'm going to set this here as DCA2. And this is going to be at a volume. I'm going to set this volume at 60. And I'm just going to send here, I'm just going to set principals in ensemble. I just want to remind myself of what this is. Okay, so now I'm going to set the volume here to 60. And as I told you, DCA2 would be, the control number would be 1 up from DCA1. So I'm just going to increment this here by 1. So this here is now going to my second DCA fader. Okay. Now I'm going to copy this and paste it again. And now this is going to be 3. The soloists, I'm going to set them to 90. And this is going to be solo. I'm just going to actually name them solo 1, 2, 3. All right. Okay, again, increment this one and set here the value that I want it to be. Now this is going to apply to 3, 4, and 5. So here I'm just going to make an increment here. This is solo 2. This is solo 3. And this is 5. Let me fix this here. All right. Okay, so now I have 3 here. I already set this to the correct channel. Now this here is 1 up from 3, and this here is 2 up from 3. So that's 76. And they're all set to 90. And now I'm going to go back. Let me go back to this one and create 2 more of these. And these are going to be for 6 and 7. And they're going to be ensemble. Both of them are going to be ensemble. All right. Okay, now 6 is going to be 77. And 7 is going to be 78. There. Beautiful. So now, oh, and then one other thing that I always like to do is I always like to use reverb when people are singing. So I'm going to put this here in here as well. And I've kind of set this already. Remember, Group 8, DCA group 8 is my reverb, but I always just name it reverb and then put the value there. And so this is 79, and see, this is consistent because now group 7 is 78, group 8, which is my reverb control, is 79, and there you have it, okay? So now I have this all done, and make sure that there's no additional offset on any of these events here. So this is cool. Now I can highlight all of them and then click send message and look at my board and see that, yes, exactly, it's happening the way I want it. Everything is set the way it works here, the way I've configured it. And so this is beautiful. And I'm done with my initial setting. Now, while I'm here, and while I have you here, you may be wondering, you may have wondered what this thing is here, set channels for Act 2. So this is something I should show you that in the X32 edit, because I'm actually using snippets to configure specific microphone channel settings for different people who are using the same channel throughout the show. So sometimes, you know, when we have larger casts and some people have some smaller solos, then they have to share microphones or microphone channels. And we have 16 microphones. And so when I have a shared channel and there are 2 or 3 different people using the same microphone that require significantly different settings, then what I'm doing is I'm actually saving the channel, just the channel settings for that one channel in the X32 as a snippet. And then that way I can call up that snippet when it comes time for the other actor, the other cast member, to go on to this channel, right? So sometime before this song, this person here has switched to channel 6. So now it's time to set channel 6, the input settings, you know, which basically includes the gain settings, the EQ settings, the gate settings, and the compressor settings. So all these settings are saved, but only for channel 6. And that allows me to use individual personalized settings for different actors that are using the same input channels throughout the show, because now I can just simply recall the channel 6 settings for this actor and the channel 9 settings for this actor when it's time for those settings to be effective, because these people have switched to these microphones. So that's just an explanation of what this is. And there you go. So now we're set for the start of the song. Let me just label this here. Set DCA levels at start of song. All right, beautiful. Okay, so this is all going to happen automatically. And now the soloists are starting to sing. So that means the soloists are going to be unmuted. There's not really that much time. There's, 2 measures of soloist 1 singing starting out, and then the storytellers, which in this case means all the rest of the ensemble comes in. So there's no use individually muting or unmuting the soloists first, because then it goes back and forth between the soloists and the storytellers, the ensemble, and everyone is just going to stay on for the whole time, and it's just a matter of mixing the DCA groups appropriately. Okay, so let me see what else is going on here. Actually, this may be more or less the only thing that is there to do, because the rest is all the same texture and the same structure. Yeah, that's actually true. So this was less work than I thought it would be. But there you go. So this is how I do this. Let me show you. Okay, so one other thing that we need to do here, because there is going to be dialogue at the end of this. And okay, So at the very end, there's no dialogue inside the music, but there is dialogue right after the cue. So there's probably going to be big applause after the cue, and then after that, it goes straight into dialogue. All right. So for that purpose, I'm going to have to reset everything. So we're going to recall Q33 on the X32, which reconfigures the DCA settings to the normal settings that we had prior to making the changes in for generations. And so what I also want to do here is recalibrate or reset all my volume levels for the DCA groups, because now they're all kind of all over the place, if you will, because DCA groups for the soloists here, 3 to 5, are set to a higher level than usual. And the DCA group for the volume for DCA group 2, which is farther in the dialogue, is very low. So this all needs to be reset to my normal dialogue settings. And for that, I actually have a preset for that, or a snippet for that. Let me find it, because I usually just like to find it and then copy it again and paste it back to where I want to reuse it. Strangely, I'll find it. Here you go. Set DCA groups 2 through 7 to dialogue levels. So that's what I'm going to do here. That is going to come at the end of generations. So therefore, let's see, this is 247. Yeah, I think this will be good. So I'm just going to create a new group here. Call it end of song. Set it to 245. Then I'm going to move this action, which recalls Q33 in here. And again, I'm going to make sure that there's no double offset in here. So I'm going to zero this one out. And then I'm going to put the DCA levels in here as well. And I'm going to also make sure that they're not delayed from that either. Okay, so now I can send the message here. Yes, and so these DCA levels are actually also setting the reverb back to the lower level that I like to use on dialogue. So now my fader positions are all set and ready to go for the next dialogue. I'm not touching the music DCA group on this one, just so that I don't all of a sudden create a bump in the ring out of the song or anything like that. But the other faders are now all preset and ready to go for the dialogue that happens right after this song. All right, so that's it. And yeah, I think that showed you a bit. You know what, since I'm going to stop this video here, and let me just real quick. So I just wanted to show you real quick what I was talking about. Let me see, let me find it. Let me find it for you. Oh, I think I messed it up. Okay, this is not working very well. Sorry for the confusion here. This is what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you the snippets of the channel settings. You see, this is how I set up these snippets that allow me to save just the setting for one specific channel and for one specific cast member that is going to be on that microphone at different times of the show. And so what I save here is the HA config, which that includes the gain settings. So that's really, really important that that's included. And then I include the EQ settings and the gate and compression. And I'm selecting here that these parameter filters are active, but only for the channel that is selected here, because I don't want to mess up all the other channels that are set for cast members that stay on them for the whole time. I just want to switch the settings for this particular specific channel that has the change where they're switching over between cast members. So you need to make sure that you only select the channel that you want to change, that you want to refer to here. And then the way you need to run this as you're in your mic check is basically you need to run a mic check for all cast members who are sharing the channel. And so once you're done with the first one, you just simply come here and you save those settings and make sure that they're saved with the correct cast member here in that snippet that you've set aside and created for that. Then you go over to the next person for that mic check that one, and then save those settings in this snippet, and so forth. So you work your way through all of them, and that way, whatever you have set up as when you automate it, you can. I'm obviously I showed you how to automate it in Qlab. Then those actor-specific channel settings are always going to be recalled just at the right time in the show. Okay, so that's the way to do this. You see here, so these are referring to channel 6, so they only have channel 6 selected, and this here is channel 9, so this has only channel 9 selected, and so forth. Okay, so thanks a lot for watching. Little workshop video. Let me know if you want to have, if you like these, if you want to see more of these kind of like take you along for working out some details videos. It seems like they're getting quite a few views, so people seem to enjoy them and be interested in them. But let me know. Just leave a comment, give me a like on the video if you'd like to see more of this type of workshop-style videos that include kind of walkthroughs to some of the creative decisions and technological decisions that you can make. All right. Well, thanks for watching. This is Thomas signing off from the Artisan Sound channel. Bye.